I said thank you. You're welcome now.
Great. So Niall, you've recently been touring Ireland gigging, and how do you find the Irish audience, and do you think that the kind of audience you get varies from country to country?
Well, first question. The Irish audience has been insane. I mean, last night I was, after the concert, Bono from U2 had brought his entire family to the show. He's now seen us 3 times. And he said last night, he says, Niall, is it like this every night? And I said, sort of, but there's something insane about Ireland. It's been incredible. Each concert gets better and better. The audience gets wilder and wilder. And maybe it's because a certain amount of people become more familiar with the material. Maybe they're repeat customers, if you will. But last night I asked the audience, how many people were at a Chic concert for the first time? Nearly half the audience. It was their first show. So they were just insane. They walked in the door nuts. So I guess it's something in the water here. Is that? I don't know. The science department. Okay.
You've collaborated with a massive variety of musicians, from Diana Ross to Avicii. Who's been your favourite, or have you had a particularly great experience with anyone?
I can't say that there's any one favorite. Currently, the way my brain operates is whatever I'm doing right now always seems like the most exciting thing I've ever done, so I'm like a child. So just 2 days ago, I wrote a track here in Dublin with Crystal Clear, and it's insane. It's like, we left the studio and I said, don't mean to offend anyone, I said, it's the best shit I've ever written. And then 2 weeks ago, I'd written a song with Avicii, and I went, this is the best shit I've ever written. And Avicii wrote me a letter night before last, and said, half of my album, meaning his next album's already done because of you. So I just have an incredible time working with people. Case in point, I just did a couple of tracks with Disclosure, and it was so funny. After we finished, we only got a chance to work together for 2 days, and one song we completed. So it's done, ready to go. And they were so excited, they just called me and said, look, Niall, I know this may sound a little weird, but we're just going to put this out in a few days, just because we can't wait anymore. We just want it to come out. We're just going to give it away because it's so cool. And that's the type of thing that excites me. So, I'm a little all over the map here, but I can go back in history and say that, well, when I was with Bowie, I thought it was the same. When I was with Duran, I thought it was the same. When I was with Diana Ross, it was the same. So there is no difference between working with those classic artists back in the day and working with Disclosure, 19 years old, 19, 21 years old.
I'll open it out now to the audience. If anyone has any questions, just like to raise your hand. Yep, Cameron.
Just having listened to your work with Chic, you strike me as an exceptionally unselfish guitar player. I think your commitment is to the band and to the rhythmic structure of the sound.
For the most part. Every now and then I'll have a selfish moment, but yeah, carry on.
Yeah, exactly. But I suppose I'm just interested in that balance that you try to strike between the individual and the song.
The individual and the
overall song and what you're trying to achieve with the song.
My commitment, whenever I'm working on any project, no matter who or whatever, however we describe it, is to the overall holistic vision of the project. That's how I operate, first and foremost. So whatever my particular role may be it guitar player, composer, orchestrator, or whatever, it's with the vision of the entire project. I always do everything as though I'm driving a car. I explain it this way. I look down the road. So even though I may have to do this part, I know what the complete picture is. It's just how I work. So most of the times with my brand of music, primarily dance music, It's to inspire people to dance and move around and, you know, shake your rump. And my guitar playing is an essential part, in my mind, of making that happen. So I'm trying to play guitar as much as possible. Whenever that guitar goes away, it's artistically to make the project emotionally go to another place, if you will. So, for example, I always say that the great thing about dance music is that it imitates your life cycle. So it's like, you know, during the course of the day, your heart rate is whatever it is, and then something may happen and frighten you, and it goes up and down. And that's what music does, especially dance music. It's taking you on this journey of, you know, emotion in a very short period of time. And that's what great DJs can do. They can read a crowd and get you going, and you notice how they can bring it down to nothing. So that's what we try and do in our composition. And that's why it may seem to you like I'm not being selfish. But in a way, I am being selfish because the desired result is that end goal, which I'm incredibly invested in.
Does anyone else have any questions that they'd like to ask?
Did that make sense? Okay, cool.
I think so. Yes, you.
You spoke before about discovering the jazzy, funky formula.
Yes.
I was wondering, did you know when you first discovered this how it would affect even pop music in today's world? And it would last for 3-4 decades.
I think I get your question. I didn't have a clue, as I still don't to this very day. When we were doing Get Lucky, first, let's say, Daft Punk had no record deal. They just called me up. I was at my apartment. Hey, man, come down to the studio. They explained this holistic concept to me. I was like, all right, cool. They said to me when I got to the studio, hey, how did you make chic records back in the day? Oh, well, this is what we do. Jazzy funk. You take it apart. You think about the chords and the voice leading and all that sort of stuff, because that's my background. And that's what I do. We did that in the beginning because it made music interesting to me. That I wanted to understand what I was doing on a theoretical level, but then when you apply it to real life, the theory sort of goes, it just governs you, right? It's sort of, it's the gravity, if you will, that sort of always keeps you, pulls you back to where you're going. But the fun of it is to just sort of freak out and just have a good time, knowing perfectly well that you're always being pulled back to this theoretical foundation. But as far as knowing that it's going to have an influence that's ongoing and going to touch people's lives for like 30 years, 35, 40, or now I truly believe well past I'm gone, that people will certainly sing the song We Are Family and stuff like that. I ran into this little girl about 4 or 5 years ago, and I started singing We Are Family to her, and I said, have you ever heard this song? She's about 4 or 5 years old. And she says, yeah, I know that song. I said, really, how do you know? She said, my teacher wrote it. So I figure, 40, 50 years from now, some teacher's going to sing it to a kid and go, we are family. And they're going to think their teacher wrote it. So.
Okay, to you back there. Yep.
How long does it take you to write a song? I mean, you've got like 20 minds set harmony, especially when you're doing some machine stuff. I'm wondering how long it's spent sort of thinking about that kind of when you're composing and, because you're very prolific. So, I mean, do you just run an idea immediately and finish it as fast as you can, or do you know when to scrap things or move on to something new?
Yes. All that. And sometimes it's really fast, as in the case of Disclosure, it was incredibly fast. Sometimes it takes a long time, like the case of Daft Punk, which, they started working on the stuff maybe a year or two before, then I got involved. And at that point, it did ramp up and go quicker. But, different compositions, different songs, different environments, different relationships, it sort of dictates the pace. There's no set formula. I had one really big record. Somebody asked me to sign when I walked in, called "I Want Your Love" by my band Chic. I dreamt that record. So, and I dreamt it note for note. I used to sleep with manuscript paper next to the bed, and every single note that's on that record, save for the strings that go up an octave, and the, you know, at some point in this thing, every note in that song I dreamt, and it was exactly what I wrote. So some might say that song only took as long as it took me to get it on the manuscript paper, because it was already in my head when I woke up. But that's rare.
Like back in the days, we do all your charts and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
I think it was, I forget which team I was reading about, but it might have been Good Times. And like I read that you only did it in a day.
Can you speak a little louder?
Sorry, I think I was reading about a sheet team, I forget which team it was, it might have been Good Times. But said that you basically you did all the arranging of the charts and stuff the day before you went to the studio.
Absolutely. That's commonplace. I used to do that all the time. When I first started working, I used to do what we called, I don't know what they call it nowadays, but I was an arranger. So I did just proper orchestration for people, and we get paid for that. So if you go back and hear old school songs, and you'll see whoever it is, I mean, it could be anybody from the Beatles to anybody, you know, you see like 4 to 5 guys standing up on stage, but meanwhile you hear strings and horns and background singers and all that stuff. Well, I was the guy writing all the strings and horns and all that other stuff. And I would do that to people's proper songs, if you will. But because of the disco era and the concept of what we called self-contained bands, like the Beatles changed that whole phenomenon, we were the ultimate self-contained band because we could do all that shit. The orchestration, the whole bit, so we didn't need anyone else. So we were completely self-sufficient, which is what's changed my whole life. That skill, if you will, is what made me the person I am. I don't have to be subordinate to any record company or anything like that, because I could just take a job just doing charts for people, and that's a pretty good living. At least it used to be.
Yeah, I'll go to you back there.
Yeah, I read like a couple of years back that you were working on getting a license from Nile Rodgers to release a soundtrack of the movie Alphabet City. And like the lost tapes set, back catalog. This is like I watched the blogs and I read blogs and I was wondering how long is it?
You have to speak up. We have no mic.
Okay. When will it be released, like the soundtrack to Alphabet City and like more back catalog of yours, which when will it see light of day?
Okay.
And will I'll ever report.
Okay. So did everybody hear him?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess just me then. So anyway, I don't actually have a proper concept of a release schedule to put out the Alphabet City album, and maybe that's unfair of me, because the songs, now that I hear them, I love them. So maybe they're going to wind up, maybe I'll snatch 1 or 2 and put them on a Chic record. You know, Daft Punk has expressed huge interest in seeing, you know, taking a look at some of this stuff and taking a crack at finishing it off. Maybe I will put out Alphabet City in its entirety, because that's the way I did compose it. But because, you know, when you're doing a film score or video, well, let's stick to film score. When you're doing a film score, you usually write a lot more music than appears in the final cut, because you write the film, you write the music and you score the film, and then they start trimming the film. So the music starts going away, and then you're moving it around, so the music editor comes in and does other stuff to it. So Alphabet City, the soundtrack, is actually more music than actually appeared in the final film. And the film lasted in the cinema all of a week or 2, maybe like 3 or 4 hours or something. So it was far from a hit. But it's a score that I like, because it was the very beginning of me using electronic instruments to make records, which I had never done before. So it's my early usage of a drum machine. You know, so it's that mixed with proper orchestration and classical stuff. So I don't know. That's a long-winded way of saying I have no damn idea what's going to happen. But I'm going to do it because I love all that music and I want people to hear it. And just, maybe I just give it away and put it out. The dude in the red shirt here with the scarf, you've had your hand up a few times.
You wrote a lot of music over a long period of time, and I was just wondering how different it is writing music and releasing music now that the internet's so crucial, and what getting lucky, getting absolutely massive.
You got to speak up a little bit for me, man. Maybe it's the loud music I'm playing every night. I heard the first part. What was you were saying? What's it?
How you think the music industry has changed completely with the advent of the internet, and what would Get Lucky going absolutely massive on YouTube? Do you think there's any actual negatives to it?
Nah. The problem, the music industry, the changes in the music industry have happened. However they've happened, the internet is amazing to me as far as I'm concerned because when Napster first came online, I was one of those people that told everybody in the music industry that we should totally embrace Napster and bring them inside the camp. And they were like, everybody was pissed off at me. They were like, going, and they were getting really angry. I was like, well, what are you talking about? Why are you so angry? Well, because they're stealing our music. I said, no, they're not stealing our music. What they're doing is that they're providing a platform for people to listen. Because what happens, a lot of people, you weren't probably around then or you were too young, but when Napster first came online, it was the first time in my life that I would go to a party and usually all the kids wanted to be in the room with the adults. When Napster came online, you notice at a party, you go like, wow, where are all the kids? They're in the room, they're downloading Britney Spears and listening to NSYNC, and they're like thrilled. And if you saw what happened, those records became massive. Those first records by Britney and NSYNC, those records were huge because the kids knew that the albums were great. They could listen to them and they didn't have to worry about the radio station being the gatekeeper. You just hear one single every few months and all that sort of thing. Because the truth is music is the only form of entertainment that you can't trick a person into buying, right? You only buy a record after you like it. So you get to hear it and hear it and hear it and then pay for it if you want to. You don't have to pay for it. You can just listen and wait till it comes on the radio. Whereas I can make a great trailer and you go, oh my God, I can't wait to see that movie. You pay for the movie and you go and go, man, that really sucks. But a record, you buy it after you like it. You listen to it, go, man, I gotta go get lucky. I gotta go get, levels, or I gotta get it. So it's a strange thing. So the music business has changed because they didn't allow people to hear the music first, which they've always done, and then decide if they want to buy it. It's always been that way. They just made a big stink out of file sharing, which we've always shared files. It just happened to be one at a time. We couldn't do 10,000. But but then you have to think about these things exponentially. So even if you share it at that level, there's still going to be a large attach rate, as Britney Spears and NSYNC proved at the time. So I think that the record company screwed up as they always do. A very smart music executive says that the record business moves slower than the Catholic Church. and he was so right about that. He actually happens to wind up having the biggest record company in the world. But anyway, sorry.
John.
Yeah, I just when you're working with loads of different artists, I wonder how much does your personal connection with individual artists affect the work that you come up with, really hitting off with somebody versus maybe not getting on so well, and then how does that link in with maybe kind of flying to meet somebody for the first time and having to make music with them, and does it ever kind of not work?
Does it ever not work? Let's get to that part. No, there's no artist that I've worked with that I don't get along with great. I was explaining to her when we were coming over, most people don't realize that I've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of projects. I mean, really a lot. More than you'll know because of my film work, my television work, the video game work, and what you guys call adverts or commercials or whatever. I've done so much of that stuff and no one even knows that I've done it. I only require 3.5 hours tops sleep a night, so I get to compose all night. So the way that affects my relationship with people is I always work with people that I like. I never have to work with people I don't like, so it's always cool. That doesn't mean we're gonna get hits, but we have a great time working together. We have a great time making music. And I like the randomness of not knowing how it's gonna turn out. Like, I've only had 2 arranged marriages, if you will, in the music business in my life. The group Sister Sledge, who I never met until the day they walked in, and when the day they walked in, they heard We Are Family playing. We had already written it. We were sitting there finishing the lyrics. They walked in and went, wow, that's our record. What about us? Well, here's your record. And then this French woman named Sheila and B. Devotion, I wrote a song called an album, but the main song is called Spacer. And same thing, never met her, had no idea about her except just minimal information, and then I made up my own non-fictional story about her, and it wound up being a huge success. But every other record, every one has been a result of me meeting the person randomly, be it Madonna, Bowie, Duran, anybody, Guetta, Avicii, everybody. I meet somewhere like this. That's why I told her today. The reason why I came here today is because I had no idea what the hell I was doing. And that always sounds cool to me. Somebody said to me, it's the oldest, whatever, student society and philosophical this, and I said, oh great, we get to pontificate about theoretical stuff in the tactile world. Great, let's go there and do that. It's all bullshit. I was like, well, that sounds really great to me. Because that'll probably turn into a hit record.
On that note, is there any song that you wish you wrote, that you love?
Oh my God. Every single song that's ever moved me in my life, I wish I'd written. And the reason why is because when you're a composer and you love music, that music seems to always influence you on some level. The great classical composer Verdi said, good composers borrow and great composers steal. As original as you may think my music may be, it's always from some non-fictional event that's happened to me that I've experienced through music. I interpret my world through music. And usually I hear something or I see something and it makes a song pop into my head, and that becomes, doom, 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 doom. Now it may seem absurd how it can translate into that, but in my brain, it's completely logical and it makes all the sense in the world. And in fact, it's a very linear journey from looking at you, turning this into a song. It's just always been like that. And I wish I'd written everything. I wish I'd written Beethoven, every one of Beethoven's compositions, every one of Prokofiev's work, everything. Mendelssohn, everything. Haydn, everything. Or Haydn, however you pronounce it, your way. But even that, even to the crazy early hip hop stuff, and even to the gangster stuff that I love, and surf music. I mean, all that stuff. Imagine how rich I'd be. Wow. If I had written everything, I wish I were the master of composition. I would write every song in the world.
Is there any other questions?
Do you have a biggest musical hero?
No.
No.
Not. I don't think in terms of superlatives like that. I don't have any one absolute thing, because people have had such powerful influence on me, and it comes from the most unlikely relationships. I mean, right now, when I tell people how brilliant Avicii is, no one believes me, and I just think to myself, why are you not hearing that? Is it because the guy is 20? Well, now he's 24. Whoopi turned 24 a week or two ago. But is it? Do you believe that a 23-year-old is not? You think I don't know what I'm talking about? You think I'm making it up? No. He's a brilliant composer. He's an amazing composer. And if you don't like his songs, well, that's fine. But I know what good is. I know what talent is. I know what great composers, how they work. He just happens to use an electronic medium to compose. You know, he's been just as influential over my feelings and the stuff that I may do as Bowie was when I first met him, as Madonna. The first time she walked into a recording studio with me, I was just blown away. And, you know, when you go back, the good thing is you guys can go online and see film clips, so you can, you know, Madonna can have whatever persona she may try and put out now. But go back and look at the clips of when we first started working together. How could you not love her? How could you not adore her? She just had me wrapped around her finger because she was just so awesome. It was just, I never saw a person in my life who was that determined to be a superstar and knew it and just absolutely knew it. And I used to just watch her. She was like a work in progress. And you could just study her and go, God damn, that's a diamond in the rough. And one day, everything that she believes is going to happen is actually going to happen. So I could easily say it was Madonna. I could easily say it was Bowie. I could easily say it was Sister Sledge. I could easily say it was Diana Ross. I could easily say it was Avicii. I could easily say it was Disclosure. I could easily say it's all the same. Sorry.
Is there anyone that you would love to collaborate with, like, that you haven't already yet?
The only things that I think about in those terms are unfortunately collaborations that will never happen. It's all people that have all passed away, and I miss the opportunity. So people who are alive, I don't worry about it. Either it'll happen or it won't, and I don't like try and make it happen because either it'll just happen or it won't. But people that I lament not working with, the main one was Miles Davis. He and I met on a fashion shoot, oddly enough, and we became great friends. And Miles Davis's personality was such that it really preceded himself. It wasn't just about his musical personality. It was about he was a tough guy. You know, people were always walking on eggshells around Miles Davis because he would, you know, berate you in one split second, just like that. He had no tolerance for bullshit. And when he met me, I always thought that I would see that part of his personality, that rough, edgy side, but I never saw it. He was always jovial and fun, and he used to speak, he had a gravelly voice. And after the first night or two we hung out, he pulled me aside and he whispered in my ear. Well, he wasn't whispering, he was just the way he spoke. He says, "Nah, I want you to write me a motherfucking good times." And I kept thinking to myself, this is Miles Davis. I've heard all the stories about him going, "Man, you stupid bitch, ain't you?" I'm like, whoa, I'm like, oh God, he's setting me up for that. So I didn't want to fall into that trap. So I just got really humble and meek and just laughed. Ha, 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 ha. Yeah, Miles, sure. And every night I would see him, he'd even call him and say, nah, write me a motherfucking good time. So then I'd write some really cool, or at least what I thought was this cool avant-garde jazz, hip stuff. And he would go, "Man, I could write that bullshit. Marcus can write that. Write me a motherfucking good time." And it was only after he passed away, and also after I saw his body of work at the end, that he was trying to get what we all want to get in this business. No matter how much people say they don't care about it, they're lying. We love hit records. That's what it's about. You make these records so you can communicate to a large audience. You want #1 records. Miles never had one. He wanted Good Times. Good Times was a record that that you could play for people, you could hold your, at least I could play good times, hold my head up high, my music teachers liked it, regular people liked it, and we sold millions of records. And it was a great feeling, and that's what he wanted. And I only wish that I could hear him the way that he was trying to express it. I just thought he was setting me up, and I couldn't hear it. And after he died, and I listened to those last few records, he was chasing that formula that I think that, you know, not being braggadocious, but I do have a gift some kind of way. I understand pop, and he wanted pop. And, you know, that's the relationship. I wish I could make that record. I wish I could go back in time and make motherfucking good time for Miles Davis. I really wish.
In general, are you happy with the direction that music has gone?
In general?
In general.
All music in general?
Do you think it's kind of missing something because it's too technology oriented?
Oh, I love, yeah, I'm thrilled. You know, everything is cyclical. Modern music and modern instruments and modern composers just do stuff with the tools they have the way they do it. It's in here that makes it all cool. It's, you know, you can give somebody anything and they come up with something cool. I've seen symphony orchestras made out of junk, literally made out of junk, play complicated symphonies that sound like heaven. So technology is there to aid us when it comes to composition. You know, so people argue about magnetic tape and digital and this, and I go, yeah, sure, I've been through it all. I love the way old stuff sounds because I'm an old dude. That's what I grew up with. People who've grown up in this era will probably get used to compressed sound and earbuds and all that stuff. They'll get used to that, and that'll be the way that music sounds to them. I believe that when you experience full bandwidth and beautiful analog recordings, there is something wonderful about that. But I also like the way new movies look in 3D and all that stuff. So, you know, it's like as much as I like Birth of a Nation, I still want to see the coolest new 3D stuff right in my face. And, you know, so, you know, why is music any different? And I think that there's some sort of, you know, wacky snobbery that goes along with music. And maybe it's because culturally, it sort of identifies who we are, so we get to say, well, we hang with this group, and we hang with that group, and our music is cooler than yours. I sort of get that. But that's just a textbook classroom. That's this shit. This is the forum for that. In the real world, you know, I don't mind saying I like Britney Spears. I don't mind saying, no, it's fine with me. And I played on some of her records. I'm fine with that too. It's all cool. So electronic music, whatever they call it, EDM, blah, 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 blah. You know, it'll morph and it'll change to something and it'll be the next thing. You know, it changes in fads and ways because of people like you or composers that are, you know, typically around your age that start to influence other people that you're close to. So it's just a cycle, and I like all the cycles. There's no part of music I've never liked. There's never been, you know, I mean, when Alanis Morissette came out with Jack, I was like all thrilled, and I went and bought it, and I bought into the Bull, and I looked and said, oh, she wrote every song? Yeah, right. But, and I was like, you know, like I bought into the hype, it's all fine. It's pop. Can I hear from a woman? Yeah. Or two. But yeah, I saw your louder for the old man, please. If a person wants to sing your song, let them. If a person doesn't like it, I bet there was somebody that liked it. She liked it. You know, She said what?
She said she wants to stay with you or one of your days when you come over. Did she do that?
When we perform, this is just me. We just play, get lucky at the end. My sound man doesn't like a DJ would do it. The reason why is because I personally, when I play it live for the first time, like really play it, I want to rehearse it. I want to play it with Daft Punk. I want to do it right. So that's why. A lot of people want us to play it, but so there's no, like, people think that I made some pact with that. I did not make a pact. They'd probably be thrilled if we played it because chic, we smoke, and the shit would sound great. But I you know, when we did I'm Coming Out, or we did We Are Family, or any of that stuff, we waited for a few years until it became part of pop culture. Like, I didn't finish the record and go run right out and start playing We Are Family. You know, it was like, no, let it be Sister Sledge's record first. So I let it be Daft Punk's record first, before I would actually walk out on stage. And how cool would that be to walk out on stage with Daft Punk and so I'm waiting for that moment. So that's what that's about.
I want to go for another lady who's just there.
Absolutely.
Hi, I was wondering, do you have something when people like Dimitri from Paris, like we work in your tracks and stuff, would you listen to that, or would you like to work with them?
You guys are making it so hard.
Maybe if you
Speak
stand up.
Yeah, oh yeah, cool. Stand up and project.
Okay, do you know people like Dimitri from Paris? Would you listen to like what he's done with your tracks and like to work with those kind of people? Or-
Dimitri is one of my best friends. I gave him those tracks. Yes, I do know Dimitri, and I love what he did. Dimitri, his style of remixing is always quite respectful of the original composition. I don't really care about people being respectful of the original composition. You know, if you're remixing a record, do what you artistically think sounds cool. Do you know? I mean, I'm not the kind of person that, you know, I dreamt I Want Your Love. We recorded that song. That's the way I made that record. I have never played it that way since the day I wrote it. Every time I play it, it's different every night. But it always sounds like I Want Your Love. But we're improvising and we're jamming the music. So if I have the right to do that, remixers and DJs have the right to do whatever they feel. I mean, my record doesn't go away because you did something to it. Mine still exists. If a person chooses to like the other person's version of it better, so be it. I get paid for both. That's cool. I mean, maybe we should go to the economics department. No, I'm not protective, just like the woman Linda, whatever, you know. I hope she covers it and makes a hit. That'd be great.
Great, yeah, you'd have to go.
Yeah, 30 years on, even more, your tracks that you made with Cheap are still like filling venues and selling out venues. And do you envisage the stuff you're working on today having the same kind of lifespan? What do you think? I mean, how would you compare the two types of music?
It's a good thing you asked that. I think I sort of said this earlier. I never think in terms of a record becoming a classic or lasting forever. I actually write in my head what I call future music. What do I mean by the future? You know, a year or 2, 3 years from now. You know, Get Lucky we did 2 years ago. And people know it now. That's what we're trying to do. Maybe in 10 years, people still know Get Lucky and love it. Maybe in 20, they still will. Maybe it'll wind up being like We Are Family and becoming a classic. Maybe it'll be like Good Times, you know. That's what we all hope for. That's what Master Miles was hoping for. But I don't have that kind of ego or personality that thinks that I'm actually doing that. I know that that's just a byproduct of life and hopefully finding an audience, and hopefully that audience can rediscover it again. I mean, you know, I was saying as we were coming over that the median age now of a Chic fan, which is amazing to me, I would guess by just looking at photographs, because I take pictures every place I go, has now dropped to about 26 years old, because there's a huge preponderance of teenagers at our shows now, like 16, 17. We play in Manchester. I look in the audience, I can't find a girl like over like 20 something. I mean, it's like packed. And it doesn't feel like a fad, because every now and then we try and trick the audience. So we'll play a song and then we'll stop playing, and then we'll listen to them sing, and this is like obscure stuff, and they're singing it, so they're quite sincere. It's real. As a composer, that makes me feel like 1,000,000 feet tall. That's amazing, because I know the amount of effort that it takes to learn the lyrics, even if you get it wrong, which I always, if you ever come to our show, I always tell people, sing the lyrics that you think they are, because even the wrong ones will sound right, just get the syllables right, So you don't have to go, we are family, you can just go, E-R-M-E, and it still sounds the same to us, it's fine. So, I don't think about, making a classic. Well, that's not true. I think about it, but I don't ever let that influence me, and I certainly am not preoccupied with it, because I know most records, and if anybody out here is a musician or even a writer or anything like this, get used to this reality. Most never sells, most of it never recoups, it rarely gets on the charts, and damn few of them hit number one. I've had about 20-something number one records, or I don't even know, I don't count them, but I know I've had a lot. I'm very lucky, and I gotta obviously have some kind of talent, but that's not what motivates me. What motivates me is wanting to do it. You just want to do it because you know that it's not going to sell, it's not going to recoup, it's not going to ever, any of that. And then you got to have some record company person screaming at you, telling you that it sucks. So like, not only do I know it's probably not going to sell, but then I got to hear somebody tell me that it stinks. And they're going to scream at me, I can't believe you're playing this bullshit. And we put it out, of course it goes number one. I go, pardon me? What were you saying about that song, I'm Coming Out? I love that song. It was a great, oh, right, yeah.
Are there any questions? Yeah.
From a pure guitar player's point of view, like, who still blows your mind? Like, well, John Mark from the Smiths, who I know is a great band,
Yeah.
friend, but what guitarist really just blows your mind?
So earlier when I said to you, or someone else, I said that I don't think in terms of superlatives like that. There are far too many. And it's just not fair, because I'd be lying. I'd be trying to make up something to entertain you. And it's just not the truth. There's so many instrumentalists, not just guitar players, but just musicians in general, that I listen to them and I love. And thankfully I'm fortunate enough to get a chance to play with them, Johnny being one of them. There's too many. Like if I started, the list would be like that long. It's just too many great musicians alive. Sorry.
Anyone else? Yeah.
What are the most important elements for you when you're making a song? So what are you aiming at? So you know what pop is about. So what are the most important elements that you're aiming for to get a harmonic groove or something along those lines?
Pump up the volume, pump up the volume. Let me hear you.
And what are the most important elements you're looking for when you're making a track, say a pop track? What are you aiming for to get a groove together?
I can really make it simple. The most important element of any composition, be it a dance track, which is my personal preference, but it's something that I can feel. And we always talk about this. In the studio, we know if we can feel it. When we were doing Get Lucky and Lose Yourself to Dance, if you think about this track, whatever you feel about it, you may hate it, but when we did it, it's just guitar, bass, and drums is the record. It's like, that's the track. I mean, we're coming from a world now where you can have thousands of elements. You listen to a Timbaland record, I mean, it's just like you can have thousands of bits of stuff going on. They decided, oh, guitar, bass, and drums. That's it. That's the track. Because you could feel it. It didn't make any difference. You know, the other elements. The other elements just become what we call ear candy. That's just stuff to keep the journey interesting. The way that my old music teachers used to describe any song was that it was just like taking a trip. It was a linear journey. You were going from one building to a final destination. And you would stop at various points along the way. And you could decide how long you want to visit one house, which is, you know, in jazz, what we would call vertical interpretation. So you can just stop at every chord. You can play, you can do that. Or you can sort of pass through those chords, you know, melodically or modally. And you don't have to stop. You can just keep going until you arrive at your destination. So every song is different, but as long as you can feel it, that's what counts to me. The Daft Punk record, at least the stuff that I did, most of those tracks are just guitar, bass, and drums with minimal keyboard work for ear candy. No pads, none of that stuff, just groove. You know, but before that part, before that happened, it had to be so that had to happen first. Before Get Lucky became Get Lucky, it had to go, you know, it had to do that thing. And we could feel it right away. And I could look at Guy-Man and Thomas, and I could just look at the expressions on their faces and knew that we were there. We had the groove, we were in it, and okay guys, see you later, I gotta go. And that's how it worked out. And that's how everything I do basically is about feel, unless it's unless it's an intellectual work like a film or something like that. But even then, we're trying to evoke emotion. But sometimes, well, that's a longer conversation. But scoring is different than just writing songs, because songs, you have to paint a complete cinematic picture without the pictures. I mean, yeah, we do music videos to sell them, but the music videos are an afterthought, if you will. The composition is its own composition. Believe me, when we were writing Get Lucky, there was no such concept. There was no concept of putting on those, Saint Laurent jackets or any of that stuff. It was a year before the thing even came out. There was no label, nothing. So if you feel it, it's good. And that's the thing is, don't ever try and think that your feelings aren't valid. Because sometimes the coolest stuff comes from your honesty. And if you're weird, and I know I'm weird, I'll be the first person to admit that. My biggest records are probably because I'm so weird. Because I was honest enough to go, this is moving to me. I got a feeling other people are going to hear it too. I know the record company's going to think it sucks. I already know that. I can't wait to hear this speech. How come it doesn't sound like Thriller? Well, because it's not Thriller. That's why it doesn't sound like Thriller. But don't be afraid to experiment. I'm never afraid of being an asshole. Ever. I learned so much from making mistakes. And having hits delude you. They make you think you're smarter than you are. So it's only those flops that teach you how to get better. I've had a lot of hit records, but boy, I've had many more flops. You just don't know them. Thank you.
I think we probably time for one more question.
Just on a really non-musical note, the entire band is really stylish with a really distinct fashion sense. So what kind of inspires that, and when did you start breaking out the white suits?
That's Interesting. Well, the style thing was part of our concept when we first came up with the band. I was with an R&B group, and we were on tour in the UK, and my room, I got robbed, and they had stolen my passport, and the guys left me, and I had to wait until the weekend. I had to wait over the weekend so I could go to I guess it's a consulate, no, it's actually an embassy in London. So I had to go to the embassy to get my passport, apply for my passport. So while I was waiting over the weekend, the girlfriend that I had at the time was into this band called Roxy Music, whom I had never really heard about. So she took me to see Roxy Music play, and I was in the audience like, I had never seen a band come out and look so fashionable, and it was like couture. And these were days of, rock and we were real, rock and roll where you just show up wearing what you wear. But they were like sort of style, and then their music was this beautiful sort of ethereal stuff. So I became obsessed with them that night. The next day I ran to the market, to Camden Market, and tried to buy a Roxy Music record. And then, to my knowledge, they had two or three of them. And I saw the record cover, and they had like fashion models and Playboy bunnies and stuff like that, looking all glamorous on the cover. And I was like, glamour, music, rock and roll. So what we did is we tried to invent the black version of Roxy Music. So when we started putting that together, and it was like, I don't know if you ever saw the film The Magnificent Seven or the original the Akira Kurosawa film, but anyway, The Seven Samurai. But anyway, they go out and they start to round up these badasses who are now going to go do this job and protect this town. So I'm out now rounding up my fashionable badasses to be in my band, my Black Roxy Music. So we get this one person who looks like that, this other person. So we hire our keyboard player, and he says, "Oh, I want you to come and see my friends. They have this new band called KISS." And I said, "Okay, great." So we went down to see this new band called KISS, and they were wearing like grease paint and stuff like that. And I was like, so we had Roxy Music with the fashion, and we had KISS with the grease paint. And the thing that really blew me away about meeting KISS was after they finished the show, right? Everybody's going crazy, KISS, KISS, KISS. After the show, I'm hanging out with the guitar player, and he's now got the makeup off, and not a single person, not one, recognized him. And he's sitting there with me, and we're having drinks, and we're talking, and everybody's walking around going, "Oh, dude, KISS, man, fuck yeah." He's sitting right next to me, and nobody knows he's there. We're just sitting there chilling. "Yeah, man, I really like the way you play guitar, man. Yeah, that new band you're doing sounds cool. Yeah, I love what you're doing." And they had no record deal, we had no record deal. We were just a New York band. In the scene, we had our following, they had their following. And so we decided that anonymity, like Daft Punk, is the way to go, because we didn't want people, we knew we didn't look like stars, we didn't act like stars. Definitely, we walk in the room and it's just Nile walking in the room. Bowie walks in the room and it's like, wow. Madonna walks in, like, wow. I walk in the room like, yo, Nile, what's up? So we thought that if we got, designer suits and all that sort of thing, that would be our makeup, if you will. The way they became white was 17 years ago, my partner Bernard Edwards died in Japan after we had done a series of great concerts. And, it's a long story, but basically, after the last show, he refused to answer his wake-up call. So I went and I knocked on his door. He wouldn't answer the door. I got housekeeping to open the door, and I found his body, and he was lying there dead on the sofa. Just, rigor mortis had set in. I tried to wake him up and scream. Your brain just doesn't operate properly. I'm like, "Wake up, motherfucker, wake up!" And I'm thinking, all right. That didn't happen, so, I realized almost instantly that he had passed away. And when I went to the police station to fill out the death certificate and the whole bit and go through the process, in Japan, they don't deal with death the way that we deal with it in the West. So they bury the bodies right away. They have the funeral service. There's no embalming or any of that sort of thing. So I'm leaving the police station, and I'm thinking that they're holding me there longer than I need to be held because President Clinton was in town, and he was in the Emperor's Palace, which was right across from our hotel. So, you know, like when the president's there, you can't move, traffic is blocked off, and I was waiting and waiting, and finally they said, okay, come on, it's time to go. So I go downstairs, and I think that now I'm going to get in my car, but in fact, what had happened is that they had changed one of the rooms at the police station, and they had built a Buddhist altar, and they had a coffin with a glass front, and Bernard was in a white kimono lying in the coffin, and they said, please go be with your friend. And that was our service right there. I don't want to cry, I'm sorry. And that's the last I saw of him. He was there in his beautiful white kimono, just lying there. And I got to tell him how much I loved him, and I couldn't have done all this. I'm really sorry, guys. I couldn't have done all this stuff without him, so. We started wearing white suits and white outfits to pay homage to that moment. And if you see our shows, I never tell people this, but our shows always start with a moment of complete silence, and in that moment of complete silence, that's what we're doing. We're paying tribute to Bernard and all of the people that have been in my band that have fallen. Luther Vandross, Bernard Edwards, Tony Thompson, Raymond Jones, Ray Maldonado. I've lost a lot of bandmates. So that's what that's all about. So the white is because of the kimono. Every now and then we'll wear another color, but that's predominantly, that's where that is coming from. There, you know, so.